Hi, I'm Dr. Alfred Dawes, and this is UC on Life Support. So far in this series, we have been looking at the problems that have plagued the University Hospital of the West Indies. Problems that have been highlighted by the recently concluded Auditor General's report. Problems with the management of the institution. Issues with procurement irregularities that have resulted in the loss of tax revenue, as well as $500 million unaccounted for by paperwork associated with the procurement process. To understand how we got here, we have to take a step back to 2 years ago to look what happened to culminate in this current management system that is overseen by a CEO that was not considered initially by the board that was fired by the Minister of Health. On December 7, 2023, after meeting with the board, the health minister announced that he was dissolving the UHWI board, citing a clash of personalities and levels of dysfunctionality. The move followed the resignation of the board chairman, Wayne Chai-Chung, effective December 4, 2023. But that is only the ministry's version of events. The former chairman publicly rejected the claim that the board was dysfunctional and instead accused the minister of ministerial interference and overreach in the work of the hospital board, particularly around the recruitment of a new CEO. According to Chai-Chung's account, the board had embarked on a global search for a modern professional CEO for the UHWI. Over 30 qualified individuals were shortlisted, interviewed, and rigorously assessed. From that pool, the board selected a highly experienced candidate from the United Kingdom, a world-class CEO who specialized in turning around complex hospital systems. The now CEO, although he was not qualified nor shortlisted, he was given the courtesy of an interview, one he unfortunately failed. The selected candidate flew to Jamaica on a familiarization visit. When she requested a meeting with a senior member of staff at the University Hospital, she was snubbed. Staff recount that a senior director refused to meet her at the initial set of meetings arranged, sending a clear signal that she was not welcome. The minister, by some accounts, met with her, but that meeting was not friendly. The result of those meetings was that the potential candidate turned down the offer, as it was clear to her that neither of these key officials were welcoming her for her professional management skills at the University Hospital of the West Indies. The board's effort to bring in an independent CEO with no political baggage was effectively sabotaged from within. Chai-Chung has said that the board was pressing ahead with many key reforms, implementing a hospital management information system, tightening oversight of purchasing, and insisting on a transparent and merit-based process to select a CEO who reported to the board, not to the minister. The ministry, meanwhile, rolled out its own language about a governance reset and a new look for the board that should supposedly realign the UHWI. But as the months unfolded, it became clear that the minister's objective was less about strengthening independent governance and more about consolidating control. They had believed that they were selected on the board to solve long-standing governance problems at the UHWI, including the issues that existed in the procurement department. Instead, they found themselves pushed aside whenever reform threatened entrenched interests. They resigned on principle rather than preside over what they saw as political interference masquerading as reform. Within days, the minister dissolved the entire board and a promise to install a new one, eventually chaired by a retired banker, along with a new CEO, saying this would realign the institution and improve governance. The acting CEO at the time, even though he was not qualified to be shortlisted for interviews, he was selected to be confirmed as the CEO to to run the hospital. He presided over the period in question that the Auditor General reviewed and found serious procurement breaches, and that the staff complained of management issues that affected not just their own morale, but their ability to deliver holistic patient care. The Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton, has survived many scandals. From as far back as 2008-2009, there was a fertilizer import scandal, where low-cost fertilizer imports raised questions about quality and safety. Dr. Tufton, then the Minister of Agriculture, defended them as tested and safe despite public concerns. Between 2009 and 2011, the sugar industry divestment. The divestment process drew backlash over whether the estates were undervalued and how workers were treated. Issues were raised about transparency and long-term planning. In 2016, toxic fumes forced the closure of key areas of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. 9 years later, rehabilitation works remain incomplete with ballooning costs and repeated missed deadlines. This is a symbol of chronic mismanagement and a failure to deliver. $24 billion later, after an initial estimate of $2 billion, we are still without a functioning Cornwall Regional Hospital, a hospital where up to recently, doctors and nurses have staged protests about their working conditions. Between 2017 and 2021, the Jamaica Moves campaign came under scrutiny by the Integrity Commission. The IC found procurement breaches in 15 contracts worth $78.6 million, all awarded using direct contracting. And they concluded that the minister's role created a perceived advancement of private interest for Market Me Consulting. Funeral home operators expressed concern that contracts were being taken away from existing providers and given to Archer's Funeral Home for the storage of bodies outside of the Kingston and St. Andrew region. Taking bodies from KPH and storing them in Spanish Town at the funeral home owned by a JLP councillor in the Minister of Health's constituency did not sit well with the Jamaican public. This prompted allegations of political favoritism that the minister has repeatedly denied. In 2022, Blue Zone, a company that is owned by the Minister of Health, imported rice that was found to be below the standard grading of the Bureau of Standards. Yet, the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority cleared it the same day. The brief that we have looked at notes a serious conflict of interest and regulatory leniency. No one can explain to this day why a rice would be exempted from the usual scrutiny that other importers face. To this day, nobody has given a satisfactory explanation as to rice labeled by the Bureau of Standards Jamaica as not meeting the classification and the standards it set out was taken off the ports and distributed to an unsuspecting public. Neonatal deaths at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital have continued to embarrass the Ministry of Health. In 2022, 11 babies died in a Klebsiella outbreak, followed by 24 newborn deaths in 24 days in 2025. The minister repeatedly avoided directly answering in Parliament when asked when he first knew about the deaths in 2022. And in 2025, it was just dismissed as babies being premature. Despite the multiple reports across Jamaica, reports that still haunt many to this day, that oxygen ran out, the Ministry of Health has refused to accept responsibility for not ordering enough oxygen from the suppliers. Many patients had worse outcomes. Many persons died. Add to all of this the $31 million neurosurgical drill, a Medtronic EM800 procured for the Bustamante Hospital for Children, where I would have pointed out at the time that comparable drills are listed internationally at around $3 to $5 million. The Southeast Regional Health Authority, SARA, approved the $31 million purchase and court filings later showed that the ministry itself was the importer, saving that company millions of dollars in duty. Yet, that role was never clearly disclosed in public statements. Now, in 2026, the Auditor General finds that at the University Hospital of the West Indies, under the ministry's watch, 51 contracts worth $500 million have no procurement records, and that the hospital's tax-exempt status was misused to import goods for private entities. Different scandals, same minister, same themes, overpricing, conflicts of interest, weak documentation, and a refusal to answer straight questions. Join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. for part 2, where we delve deeper into how this affects the operation of the UHWI and the staff. I am Dr. Alfred Dawes, and this has been UC on Life Support.